it is not a belief that everybody can do anything they want to do. It is a deep insight of mine. We are designed as a creative force to bring into form whatever we want to do, and we just don't know it. And my wish and my hope is to keep spreading that and spreading the fairy dust and spreading the love. Welcome to this masterclass on getting paid to do the work you love. So welcome to the people who are here live, and welcome to you watching it on the replay. So first of all, I would love to know if you can, if you're not driving or cooking and you would like to share, I would love to know your win of the week. So let's start off by sharing in the chat your win of the week. So it can be anything small, anything big, can be personal, can be business. It doesn't matter, so long as that you feel like it's a win. I will share mine while you write in the chat. And my win of the week is that I was meant to be going to Denver next week, and the conference was all cancelled, and so they let us all know, but my plane tickets were non-refundable. So I couldn't do anything about that. And then there was a suggestion that I might go anyway, and somebody has just reached out to me to offer me an amazing downstairs little self-contained place in Colorado by the Rocky Mountains, and we're going to put together a little weekend retreat for people. So how exciting is that? So that is my win of the week. And I see Ilse, your win of the week is recording a new masterclass. Amazing. Good job. Good job. Oh, and that's the content for your third book. Wow. Wow. That's really, really cool. Well done. Well done. And anybody else who wants to put their win of the weeks in, and if you're on the recording, put your win of the week in the chat. I think that there is a myth that we can't be paid for doing what we love. And heartfelt work and passion projects have to be done on the side, or, you know, alongside a full-time job. And I don't think that's true. And I think that there's many examples where that hasn't been true. And it's my experience that you don't have to choose between meaning and money. Now, I think that the main reason why this myth has come about is because we're almost conditioned to doing a job, to getting paid for a living. And in actual fact, we hear things like do what you love and follow your dream, and if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, and that sort of thing. But that advice or that guidance of how to make that happen isn't very forthcoming. It all seems like almost nice sound bites, and really hard to get over the line of the conditioning that we've been living in. So I invite you to reflect on any beliefs, limiting beliefs or thoughts or things that have kept you trapped in a mindset of, well, I have to do this job until I retire, or I can't make a living doing what I love because nobody will pay for it, or anything like that. And reflect on that. And if you come up with anything, I'd love to hear in the chat about that. But I've got a couple of examples for you, including my own, that I thought I'd share as a way of debunking this myth, because it is a myth. And even I'm still on the journey of uncovering those limiting beliefs as I go. So it's not a blame and shame masterclass. It's not something to be afraid of admitting. It's just hidden thought and hidden societal agendas and parents and all sorts of, education, all sorts of things that have drummed into us a certain way. One of my favorite examples that I often quote is Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs, at his commencement speech at Stanford University in about 2005, really worth looking for that speech. I'll put it in the email when I send this out. One of the things he talked about is, let's see, I've got his quote here. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. And he described how he got sacked. He was one of the founders of Apple, and he got sacked from his own company. So imagine that. You've built Apple, you've made this amazing $1 million, maybe a multi-million-dollar enterprise. You've changed the world of computing, and then you get sacked. And it devastated him. It broke his heart. But because he was sacked, he went on to do something that he always loved, and he ended up setting up Pixar. He wouldn't have done that if he was still the CEO of Apple. And he could see how you can't join the dots going forward. So you can't think, well, I'll do that and that will lead to this and that will lead to this, because it doesn't work like that. It's only when you look back that you think, oh, if that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have done this. And if that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have learnt about this. And so one of the reasons for saying, if you want to do great work, you have to love what you're doing, is because life and work is difficult. It's challenging. There's obstacles, there's difficulties, there's unknown. Life throws a curved ball and you don't really know what you're doing anymore. And if you don't love what you're doing, it's just so much wasted life. Now, you don't have to start your own business to love what you're doing. He wanted his employees to love what they were doing. So you can be a graphic designer, or you can be a barista, and you can love your job. I used to go to the Isle of Wight a lot, and off the ferry of the Isle of Wight is the people who are guiding you off the ferry, and they're, just standing there, just doing this. That's their job, to just do that and get you off the ferry safely. And there was one man, an employee of the Isle of Wight Ferry Company, and he would curtsy and do twirls and points, and he would do all of these things and absolutely made everyone's day. Everyone in this big long line of traffic would smile and laugh and open their window and speak to him. He clearly loved what he was doing. He brought all that energy and focus to his job. And Steve Jobs said that when individuals are passionate about their work, they are more likely to be creative, innovative, and dedicated. Because when you're passionate about what you do, you will channel all sorts of ideas into that. So Ilse says, I've actually been doing what I really love for over 15 years, to where I'm still growing to increase my reach, visibility, and the amount that I earn. Amazing. Amazing. Wonderful. Good for you. That is absolutely amazing. I've got a couple of stories here from a couple of other real life people and one from me. So one of the guys that I've heard about earlier is a guy called Brandon Stanton. And he's a photographer, and he's the man behind the project called Humans of New York. And what happened to Brandon was he lost his job. He lost his job, and with very little resources, he moved to New York. He had no credentials, and he had a very simple plan. He had no money, no credentials, and a very simple plan. He wanted to photograph 10,000 New Yorkers and then plot them on a map of the city. But he loved photography and he loved people. So what he did was he went around, he asked people if he could take their portrait, and then he asked them about their story, just random strangers. And because he was curious and empathic, people opened up to him. People shared their stories. And then he shared this online, and because of his authenticity and the passion that showed through this work, he amassed thousands and thousands of followers. He's now 4 times best-selling author, and he's raised over $20 million in crowdfunding for various social projects. So from nothing to this massive reach. And he never planned to get there. He never knew how it was going to go. He was just doing something that he loved, and he had a very simple idea. In another genre, JK Rowling, one of my favourite stories to tell. She was a struggling single mom. Her passion was writing and writing fantasy. And we probably all know she just kept submitting her manuscripts and being rejected and submitting again and being rejected until eventually she was picked up and now is a worldwide bestseller and owns a multi-million-dollar franchise. She stuck with it. She believed in what she was doing. She was persistent, and as I understand it, every time she got a rejection, she refined the work. She did the work to make it better and resubmitted and just kept going because she believed in what she was doing. Now, she couldn't have known I'm going to be a multi-million-dollar owner of a franchise or how her books would be picked up, but she believed in herself and she believed in her work. One of my mentors always talks about how can you get paid to be you? And it's very similar in that the being you part, that's the passion part. And when you really see, oh, this is what I want to do, this is what I love doing, and you let everything else drop, you find ways. There are so many ways. There are thousands of ways of being paid and being able to do the work you love. And in my work, it's very similar. So some of you may know my journey, but just briefly, I went from being a sort of IT exec, earning a big salary with a lot of material stuff, hated my job, but thought that was the only thing I could do because that's what I'd always been doing. I did it for 20 years. And I'd fought my way to get there. You know, I put myself through school as an adult and persuaded people to give me work and really persevered and got to the top of my game, only to lose it all and to not have it there anymore. And I always say it's the best thing that ever happened to me. So like Steve Jobs, I then went and thought, well, I don't have to do that anymore because I haven't got a house, I haven't got a mortgage, I haven't got a car. So I can just do what I like now. And I fell into helping people in the recovery community. And I just got really interested in addiction And I was working a job in an estate agent just to pay the rent. And while I was in the estate agents, I was researching the current paradigm on how you help people with addictions. And I didn't believe what I was reading, that it's a disease and you've got it forever, and there's only one way of curing it. And so I delved a bit further and I found some alternative ways of thinking about addiction. And I had an alternative way of thinking about addiction. And I kept thinking, somebody needs to tell these people. Somebody needs to share that this is not true. And one day I thought, that somebody is me. And so I went out into the community and I just started sharing. Now, I was working in a job and I was doing this for free, because mostly the people that I worked with were people who had lost everything and people who couldn't afford even £25 a session, let alone £250. But I loved the work and I wanted to do that, and I didn't care that I couldn't get paid for it. So I was saying, right, what I will do then is I'll work and I'll do this in my part-time, in my spare time. But because I was passionate about it, eventually I started to think, well, could I work in this arena? What would that look like? How would I make a business out of this? Where might the funding be to enable me to work with the people who can't afford it? And so, I went on that journey and learnt a lot of things along the way. And then, as you know, ended up working in prison. And my first contract in prison was £90,000. So I really see from that is that I too had that belief of, oh, well, people can't afford it, so I'll have to do a job. But as I became more and more passionate and a feeling of knowing that this was the area that I wanted to work in, I started to let my creative mind come up with ideas of how I could make it work, and found out how I could make it work as a job. So I'm just going to pause there for a second in case there are any questions. Pop them in the chat, or any thoughts, or anything that you see about what the people that I've talked about, what sets them apart. Why have they been able to turn their passion, and if you've been able to do it as well, as some of you have, then what sets you apart? What are the factors that you need to be able to do that? One of the things I was going to share is I've been that person who thought she couldn't. I thought that I wasn't a writer, and now I've actually published 4 books. I thought that yes, exactly. And two of them are books with other authors of stories, a memoir, a business book. I'm going to publish 2 more business books like Gilsey. I thought that I couldn't speak on a stage, and here I am today. Today I've had 2 offers to go, one to go to Colorado and one to go to Charlottesville later this year. And I've spoken at all of these places around the world. I thought that I wasn't a business person. I thought that I wasn't creative. All of these thoughts were just limiting beliefs that were handed to me. They weren't even things that I really believed about myself. They were just things that I picked up along the way. And what I've come to see is when I think I can't do something, I realize, like, oh, I think I can't do that. What's that about then? What could I do to help me to do that? And I just don't let anything get in my way anymore. Right, let's see what the chat says here. What makes a difference is to follow the guidance and do it. Like you said, the money may come from somewhere else, yes, and it is following your passion or allowing your passion to lead the way and guide you. 100%. 100%. Other things that make the difference are commitment. Commitment to, this is what I want to do, and so I'm going to do it. Now, sometimes I've worked with a lot of coaches who want to do coaching, but they're not quite ready to charge or whatever. Sometimes you do have to take a job. Sometimes you have to pay the bills in a different way. But it doesn't have to stay like that. When you follow your passion, you get fed the next step. You get fed the how. One of the things that's got in my way from time to time, in fact, this is just a breakthrough from a recent coaching session that I had, is that I was focusing a lot on building up a pot for our retirement and making a certain amount of money. And that helped me initially to get going and really be active. But it started to get in the way because it started to mean that I was spreading myself too thin because I had this almost frantic energy. And then it occurred to me literally today that I don't need to focus on that. All I need to focus on is what I believe in, what I'm passionate about, activating other people who want to have impact in the world, and the rest will follow naturally because I'll figure out ways along the way. I don't have to build this pretend pot for some pretend retirement that may never even happen. You know, I can't imagine ever retiring. Yeah. The other thing I see is that in the people that I've mentioned, including myself and even you, Ilse, is resilience, a very strong sense of resilience and bouncing back. When you do follow your passion, it's not going to be smooth. There's another little bit of a myth that it's effortless. You know, I hear that it's effortless. But not actually. It's only effortless in the struggle. But you have to put a shift in. The effortless part is the mindset part. You don't have to believe it's hard. You don't have to be tired. You don't have to work 50, 60 hours a week like I was doing. The bumps in the road are an important part of the journey. Yeah, brilliant point. And there always will be bumps in the road. And one of the reasons they're important is because that's when you learn. That's when you grow. That's when you see things that you didn't see before. But the effortless is the struggle, but the effort still has to be put in. You still have to show up. You still have to make the phone calls. You still have to write the proposals. You still have to do the work. Yes, that's a really good point there. So for me to have been invited today to a new collaborative opportunities this fall. Yay! Yes, what you're saying is right. What you're saying right now about focusing in the moment you are in rather than building the retirement pot. Exactly. And what's really interesting to me is I had that breakthrough insight earlier today in the car of, oh, hang on a minute. I've been focusing on the wrong thing. Now, it's not the wrong thing. It's just it's the illusion. I've been focusing on the illusion. But I've been following the passion, so I've been getting there, even though I've been focusing on the illusion. And when I saw that, and I thought, I don't need to do that. That's how I literally, within the next hour, got 2 opportunities, the Colorado and the Charlottesville opportunity. I mean, is that the universe saying, yeah, exactly. And I love what you're saying, Ilse, about the bumps in the road also allow you to take stock. They allow you to see how far you've come. and that you wouldn't have even been able to deal with whatever it is that you're now dealing with at another point. And so the bumps are welcome. You know, we should welcome the bumps because that shows us what we can do. I know when I started working in prison, and I could never have imagined doing that. Never. It just wasn't even in my reality that I would end up working in prisons. And then there I was, all of a sudden being trained, knowing how to operate walkie-talkies, being trained in what to do if somebody takes you hostage. A bit scary, but I realised at some point a previous version of me couldn't have worked in that male environment without some trauma. Because of my past, because of, you know, certain things that have happened to me, I'd have found that whole environment very difficult to handle. But because actually I'm not the old version of me, I'm the me now, I was totally able to manage it like 100%. And it's a bit vulnerable of me to tell you this, but in my past, because I was starved of love, a man would only have to like look at me and I would be in love. You know, I would think that, oh, this is it, and I would be sort of bowled over by their attention. I couldn't have worked in a prison with that still hanging on. And I didn't know it had gone, and I didn't know that I couldn't have done that. But suddenly I found myself in a situation where men are a little bit cheeky, you know, and sometimes they turn up to group with their top off, or they would say little cheeky, naughty things to me. I knew that what I was sharing was so much out of that realm, was so beyond that conversation. I didn't even take any notice of it. And I would be in there, they would say something naughty or cheeky, or they'd come with the top off and I'd say, put your top on. And it was gone, because I knew that what I had to share was so much more than what they were bringing to the table, that they were misconstruing love and compassion for something else, and that when they saw through that, they would feel it deeper, and it would be a far more beautiful journey. Now, I couldn't have articulated that before I went in. It was only during and seeing and then reflecting that I could see, oh, how am I handling this? Oh, I know that what I've got to offer here is so much more than me as a woman or me as a person who wants attention. And of course it was beautiful. And they did. As soon as there was no resistance, there was no response, they would drop that. And then they could see, because I knew that all they were doing, they were really reaching out for attention and love themselves. And I could give them access to a deeper, deeper love, which is a soul level love. So yeah, little side note there. Wasn't expecting to tell anybody that. The other thing I love that, oh, thank you, Elsie. They could see your light because you saw the light of who they were. That's, yes, very, very true. Another important thing that's come up in the chat here is the idea that it has to be a certain way. I think that's the biggest obstacle that gets in people's way, including mine, because we're human, and it's almost like our brain and our ego collaborate to create what the future might look like. Our version of what we think is the best outcome. And 100% truth is we cannot know. We literally cannot know. And if you think to COVID, that taught everybody that we have no idea of what's going to happen tomorrow, because that was a sudden, like, so many things changed during that time. It was such a dramatic example of we don't know what's going to happen. And I remember someone, a prison official, telling me that they used to spend every single Friday talking about disaster recovery and planning for disasters. And they would spend at least 2 hours every Friday on this planning. And in none of their plans was what would happen if there was a COVID pandemic. Right? What a waste of life. Because they didn't know what they were going to do, and nobody did know. And to me, that's a great example of we don't know. And so what we have to do is bring the power of everything we've got, to bring the passion that we've got alive, and to follow that and follow our wisdom. Now, of course, I work with people. I run a program that works with people to what I call activate the impactors and help them to create businesses and practices and do the things that they love. But the biggest thing really that I have to say is there is no one way. I can share the way I did it. I can help people see past their limiting beliefs and their obstacles and get over the roadblocks that they think they have. But there are thousands of ways of doing anything. And the most important thing is to keep coming back to yourself, keep following the passion, building the skills of resilience and commitment and determination, and seeing what's next, and then going in for that, taking those inspired action steps. So yeah, it's a great point about playing small, especially as women. I think that we have this almost inbuilt role of playing small and not shining. And I do often mention the Marianne Williamson poem about, you're not scared of who you're not scared of who you're not. You're basically scared of who you really are, of shining your light so bright. You're scared of having people look at you shine your light and have some judgment. But the truth is, when we shine our lights, we let other people's lights shine too. And like you pointed out earlier, when I was shining my light, I was actually shining my light on their lights. And so their light, and it must be the same in your work, their lights light up. And then you can't say, right now, this is what you need to do, because they have to follow whatever their light is showing them. So amazing, amazing. Hopefully, I've helped you to see that you are able to get paid to do what you love. There is a mini exercise. If we had a bigger group, we would do this exercise, and I'll send this out on an email and put it in the chat on the replay. That what you can do, there's a 3-step framework, we've called it. What you could do is try to articulate what you do. Try to articulate the transformation that you want to see in a way that makes sense to other people. So I wouldn't say, I am going to help you reach your potential, because it's so intangible, people can't grasp it. And you want your people to be able to grasp it. You want them to be able to say, that's me. So instead of saying, I'm going to help you reach your potential, I'll say, I'm going to help you get paid to do the work you love. Now, can you see the difference between those two statements, right? When you hear one, you hear a sort of fluffy, intangible, like sounds nice, but I'm not really in the market for that sort of thing or whatever. When you hear the other, it's very solid. It's very clear, like, oh yeah, I've got a passion project and I'm not getting paid for it. I know that's me. So spend some time trying to figure out, like, here's what I think I'm doing with my beautiful but fluffy words, and here's what makes it tangible. And all you have to do to get to there is just keep asking, what's the result? What is the problem that people are trying to solve, and what is the promise that you are making? Get as close as you can, and then think about, so step 2 is think about who's got that problem, who can you help? Now, this is not for this evening's masterclass, but we'll cover it in another one. But you can't help everyone. So don't even do that. And when you learn an understanding, or you have a transformation or change, or you do any of these stuff, we start to think we can help everyone. And the problem with that is then you help no one. So just try to think of, well, who can I help? Now, again, one of my coaches talks about embodying, like teach what you've embodied. So teach what you know, or what you've embodied, what you've experienced yourself. And then you know who you're helping is you before you had the change. So if you've experienced severe anxiety, for instance, and then you've found a way of overcoming that, you can help people with severe anxiety. If you, like me, I started a business because working with underserved communities, and I did that because my insight was you can do anything. People can do anything. And then that's where that took me. So I can share that experience. If you've found one of my colleagues heals people through his paintings, then you can share that. You can paint, you can teach people to paint, you can do commissions. So there's so many ways, but just find the people, or think about the people that you could help. And then what people find a little bit more difficult is, what might a paid offer look like? And take a bold step. Now, I have seen that if you can charge, if someone will pay £1 or $1 for something, someone will pay £1,000 or $1,000. The money is almost irrelevant. If it's the thing that is your passion and your embodiment, and it's what they want, you can sell it, or you can find ways of funding it. And they're like, money is spiritual. Money is everywhere. It is a spiritual form of the formless, in the same way that our products are a spiritual form of the formless. Your thoughts are a form of the formless. Everything around us is a form of the formless. We are in the realm of bringing the formless into form, and you can do that all day long. And if it's really, you never need to get stuck, because when you're stuck, it's just like, what now? What shall I do now? And you will get ideas. And that's why being focused really helps you, because when you're a bit scatty like me and you have 100 things on the go, you're getting ideas for all of these things. And I have found over the last 12 months, the more and more focused I've got, the more things happen. So writing the business book, for instance, all of a sudden I wasn't doing that, and then all of a sudden I was doing that, and there it was published. It's like within a couple of months, really. So you're always able to bring the form into the formulas, but just play with what your first paid offer might look like. Or if you're already charging and you would like to earn more, what would an increase look like? Now, what I do with that is, it's not that I'm going to increase my prices to my existing clients. It's a whole new load of clients. So it may be that someone who's currently paying £2,000 could pay £5,000, or £200 could pay £2,000, depending where you're at. But I think it's actually another layer. It's another person. So when you're done with the level of people that you're working with right now, it's not, oh, how will they won't allow me to increase the prices. They can't afford it. Those aren't the people for this next wave. The people for the next wave, maybe you haven't met them yet. But you start thinking in terms of, well, who might they be? And where might I go to find them? One of my mentors talks about, this thing about the $97 or $997 instead of 1,000, and people put a 7 or a 9 at the end of things. When it's a low paid product, that works bizarrely. But when it's a higher paid product, like a premium coaching program, actually people expect to be treated as intelligent, and 997 is £1,000 or $1,000. So charge $1,000. We don't need to use tricks. And there's a lot of tricks out there. All we need to do is be true to ourselves, follow the passion, and then see what we need to do next. And it might be, I had to learn about sales. It might be, you have to learn about sales, or you might have to learn about marketing. But it always has to be distilled back down to what makes sense to me right now. So I'll just clarify those steps. So be able to identify what your work is and how you would explain it to someone. Name the people that you could offer this to. Now, if you can get specific and think, I know X would like this, or so-and-so might be interested, that is even more helpful. And then think about what your first paid offer might look like, or your next increased price offer might look like. I love that. Yes, call a spade a spade. Absolutely, absolutely. And we're in this space of, there's so much information, there's so much noise about what to do and what not to do. And I remember when I first started business networking, people would say, you need a website first, or you need business cards first, or you need this, or you need that. Everybody's got their opinions about what you need. And tricks and ways of getting people. Let's not do that. We're doing heart-led, authentic work. Let's be true. Let's be honest. When I have people on a call with me and they ask me, and I invite them, because my program is an invitation-only program, and I invite them to the program, I tell them the price. Like, no tricks, no trying to hide behind a different price, or $9.97 or whatever. I just tell them the price. That's it. Because the price is just the price. Nobody really cares about the price. So they can either afford it or they can't. Usually what they really want to know is credibility, like can you do this? Are you the right person to do this? And can you help me? So they want to know that you actually can do what you can do and that you can do it for them. Those are the two main things. And then the money's just the money. And like I say, they either can or they can't. I like to have a low access route so that people can, through my books and through my videos, access the work in a way that's affordable to them. But I don't want to change my pricing for my program because that's honouring what I'm bringing to the world. Yes, that's right. Everyone is talking about the tricks of pricing. When we truly own our value, then the right aligned people will respond 100%. Yeah. It's a great message as you're in the midst of mapping out your next offer. Amazing. Good, good. Alfie, I suddenly see how we are really giving what we do freely from the heart, and the money comes to us because we are coming from that freely given heart space. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's exactly right. And that's what all those other people were doing. That's what Brandon was doing and JK Rowling. They were doing it from their heart and following that, and then the money finds you one way or another. Now there are ways that I help people open their minds to where to find the money, but there's no one way. Again, there's no one way. It might be like Brandon, that you do everything for free and then do a crowdfund and raise $20 million, or it might be, and that's what I've done when I ran my social enterprise. I've had private funding, I've run crowdfunds, I've had contracts. There's all sorts of ways of finding the money to do the thing you love. But you start with doing the thing you love, not the finding the money part, because you get creative about that. Before I round up, is there anything else that people would like to share or ask? I am running these masterclasses once a month now. I've got the next 6 booked in, or next 5. I think this is one of the 6. And I'm really looking forward to them. I love doing them. And I love answering questions. And one of my favorite times was once we started working in prison, probably after a year, to be fair, we had a waiting list of 90 people always. Like, that waiting list never went down. We couldn't run enough groups. At one point, we were running groups with 40 people in a chapel, because we were trying to get everybody in. Because the guys would go and talk to other guys, and the workshop leaders would say, oh, can we put some of our people on your program? And we had these really big programs. But when it came to actually running the group, sometimes people wouldn't turn up. So we could only run 10 or 15 max in some of the smaller rooms. And then it'd only take 2 or 3 to drop out. And, that's a space for other people. Sometimes it wasn't their fault. Sometimes it was because they got shipped out of the prison, or they'd been naughty, so they were banged up behind their door, or they didn't get up that morning, or they had to go to work that day and they didn't think that they were going to get paid if they came to us, which they would have done, but they didn't always know. So many things would go on. And so I started running taster groups, and the taster groups were called the introduction, and I would run an introduction with as many people in the room as possible. And at the end of a 2-hour introduction, I would then say, if you're really interested, put your name on the list, because I thought, well, that way I'll reduce the number of people who don't turn up. Anyway, near enough 90% of people from the taster groups put the name on the list. And you may have heard or seen Derek Mason, but he was one of them. And he said that I loved running those groups. What I would say at the beginning is, okay, tell me what challenges you've got. And I would list the challenges on my flip chart. And they would come up with they want to maintain their recovery, or they want to get a job when they get out, or they want to fix their relationships, all very standard human desires. And it would be a big long list because they had lots of desires. So it'd be a big long list. And then I would go through and not, very genuinely at some juncture during the class, and look at the list and tick everything that I felt that I could cover in the 10-week program. And usually it was 100% of stuff on the list. I think one time somebody asked me, like, could we close down prisons? And that really wasn't in my remit. But mostly I could cover what was on the list. And Derek was one of the lads in the room, and he said that he thought either I was on something or I could really do this. But whatever it was, he wanted to know and he wanted to come. And that's why he signed up for the group. Because it didn't matter what challenge they threw at me. I have this amazing resource of the universe. I don't have to know the answers. And so any questions that would come, I would either be able to see what would come to me and be helpful in the moment with an answer that might seem odd, or I didn't know, and I would admit I didn't know, but I could see deeper beyond the question and be able to go there. And it never worried me. Any of the questions never worried me. And it's one of the reasons why I can speak on stages with audiences that don't know anything about what I teach, because when they ask me stuff, like, I either don't know, or I come from a place of, well, here's what I think, or here's what I understand. So all that to say, I love questions. So if you come back, come with your questions. If you're struggling with anything, come with that. I'll be really happy to do on-the-spot coaching. If anybody wants that, just come along and get the maximum that you can. That's what this is, a gift for you. And so use me. All right, let's have a look at the chats. Inquisitive minds want to know, and I do too, like you say, I have the resources of the universe too, and go deeper. And this is you speaking from and leading with your heart. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Elfie, as well. All right, as we land the plane, as they like to say, I would love to know your biggest insight or takeaway from this call this evening. While you're typing, I will let you know that anybody who hasn't had a free copy of my book, Let Them Feel It, is very welcome to have one. So just let me know and I will send you the link. Okay, so inspiring to hear how you took the list of all the questions, desires, the guys, and knew you had access to everything you needed in the moment to be able to respond. Brilliant. Thank you. And also validation of my approach too. And this conversation is helping to move more energy as you prepare your new offer. Amazing. Amazing. Good. Good. That's what it's for. I want to end with, it is not a belief that everybody can do anything they want to do. It is a deep insight of mine. I originally saw it for myself. I can do anything, I suddenly saw. And very fast on the heels, I realised that that is possible for every human being, no matter your circumstances, no matter your thoughts, no matter your financial situation, no matter anything. You can do anything because we are designed that way. We are designed as a creative force to bring into form whatever we want to do, and we just don't know it. And my wish and my hope is to keep spreading that, and spreading the fairy dust, and spreading the love, and activating all the beautiful people who want to do amazing work around the world. Thank you so, so, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lots of love, everybody.